Welcome back to The Line. Some of the smartest lawmakers we know have called the Energy Transition Act the most complex piece of legislation they have ever seen. And they aren't kidding. The bill, which has been signed into law, by the way, sets a goal of carbon-free emissions for major utilities in the state by 2045. It also sets up financing that would let PNM recoup 100% of its stranded costs from closing the coal-fired San Juan generating station, which the company was planning to do in 2022. And it provides an economic parachute not just for PNM, but for San Juan County and the people who work at the power plant and attendant coal mine. But before we dive in, a quick disclaimer. My girl Laura, you were deeply involved in this bill, acting as legal expert for PNM. So I have a fundamental first question. Why did PNM have to be a part of this bill? Couldn't it have just gone before the PRC like normal and let the renewable portfolio standard be a separate deal? Why did PNM just go straight at the target like this?
Well, so a little bit of background.
Please.
This bill was actually an original form of this bill in last year's session.
Okay.
That was the PNM bill. PNM had been behind that bill. That had been a priority for the company, and I was involved in that aspect of it. It ended up not passing.
Right.
This year's bill was really different from last year's. There was a couple of fundamental areas that were similar, but the way it evolved was very different because it was actually led by a lot of the renewable energy advocates, environmental
That
groups.
is different, yes.
The governor's office was supportive of this bill this time. There was a very broad coalition, and it was definitely not PNM's bill.
Okay.
Obviously, PNM's impacted by the bill, and it supported the bill, but it wasn't their bill. In terms of why it couldn't be a separate, there was actually a separate RPS bill, Renewable Portfolio Standard Bill, at one point.
Okay.
But the aspects of that bill got also brought into this one.
I
And
see.
so it was sort of a two-pronged approach.
Right.
One was the financing aspect of it that you mentioned that deals specifically with closing coal-fired power plants. That's an area that environmental groups were very supportive of, as were a lot of people, because of the pollution aspects,
Sure.
polluting aspects of coal-fired power plants for the Four Corners area. The other part was the Renewable Portfolio Standard. So, so they were brought together under this big bill. It was an 85-page bill, very
amazing.
complicated,
Right.
very technical.
Yeah.
So the reason that a utility, and in this case PNM, but any utility couldn't go straight to the PRC and get this form of financing is that it doesn't currently, prior to this bill, didn't exist in New Mexico.
I see.
So what the bill did is it authorized the PRC to consider this type of financing as another tool in evaluating how to approve basically the utilities case as it brought what's called an abandonment of the coal-fired power plant, which is San Juan Generating Station.
Right.
Now it also applies to Four Corners
Right.
power plant, which
Sure.
is projected to also, at least PNM's portion of it, they're going to get out of likely by 2030, 2031. And so, yeah, that was why they couldn't just go to the PRC.
I appreciate that answer because it is a bit confusing for those of us outside of the machinations.
Yeah.
You know, Eric, interestingly, Laura mentioned the bill was 84, 82 pages, whatever it was. The title alone was like a page and a half. It was amazing. But, you know, a lot of folks, as Laura mentioned, were on board here, a lot of strange bedfellows. But there were some things not to like in here from some other folks. What was your sense of it as it went along?
Well, it was something for everybody in the
Right.
bill, right? So credit to PNM and to the extent that Laura was involved in this. Like this is the PNM stock, if you look at the trajectory since this conversation started, has just gone up. This is a $3.65 billion company. Shareholders are not going to pay a dime of costs that they would have paid, that the company would have paid. We, ratepayers, are going to pay for this whole thing. I fully support the RPS. This
Okay.
is great. We're going to be a national leader.
Right.
But the brilliance, I think, for the PNM team and not just PNM, because there was El Paso Electric, some other investor-owned utilities, was here's an opportunity to give the Enviros a huge something they've been working for many years. Ironically, PNM has been in this conversation and hasn't done much to advance it, but that's a different conversation. So here we have this ability to be a national leader on this transition to renewable energy. But the price will be essentially, we put this principally on the ratepayers. We're closing down at ratepayer expense a coal-fired power plant that we were going to close down anyway. That's pretty much on the record.
Yeah.
Four Corners is maybe a different conversation. But essentially what we have is, and I want to make sure, PNM had, for their investment of $600,000 in campaign contributions over the last few years, the return on investment is massive because they were able, and kudos to anybody who was involved in this, they were able to get all of the leading environmental organizations, several social justice,
right.
the governor,
right.
most of the progressive Democrats involved in saying this is
The tribes are in there too.
Tribes were in there. This is worth essentially giving the monopoly utility, putting them in the driver's seat on renewable energy transition, paying for them to get out of some pretty bad business decisions that they made, making the ratepayers pick that up. But it's for the cause of being, essentially, we're going to be the national leader now in terms of these RPS standards. So I think, I think it was, if you're interested in legislative compromises, this is the mother of all compromises. But a lot of people have called it a bailout for PNM. And I think PNM, to their lobbying team and to their credit, and this was a huge win for them and their shareholders. Not so much for the ratepayers.
Can I jump in real quick? Because there's
Yep.
one quick correction.
Okay.
Eric said that shareholders wouldn't pay anything for this. Actually, under the way that it's structured, the shareholder portion of that return, they forego it. So there's $100 million worth of what would have ordinarily been recoverable if they went the traditional financing mechanism through the PRC. They could have basically gotten that $100 million back. The shareholders opted to forego that. The money that they will be getting from bonds that are issued will actually be reinvested in renewable energy. So it's complicated.
Yeah.
It's a moving target to a certain, but to say that the shareholders don't pay anything is not true.
So I stand corrected, but the estimates are over $1 billion in terms of what the real cost of decommissioning and transition and so on.
Right.
So
Let me get to Jeffrey on another point there, just about that on money. $20 million for retraining and also for severance pay. But folks are paying that. Should the state be doing that and paying these kind of things?
Can I talk about the execution?
Sure.
Because for me, it reminds me, and again, I'm not involved at all directly, but just reading about this reimagined energy transition, which is extraordinarily ambitious. Reminds me of Kennedy in 1960. He said, we're going to go to the moon in 10 years. The technology didn't exist, but they marshaled all those resources to make that happen. The technology doesn't exist. And what's interesting is wind by itself is not really an efficient technology. And I think California is attempting to do this, but they're using nuclear. So some of those questions still aren't answered. But for me, this entire prospect is kind of a reimagined theoretical political posturing based on a lot of science and supposition and technology and supposition, and it's not there yet. And by the way, and again, I applaud what's happened, but Michelle Grisham's not going to be here in 25 years. So who do we hold accountable? But to your point, when we're transitioning people to jobs out of carbon and coal and all of that, what are we where are they being transitioned to?
Fair
and
question.
Just the loss of tax over there in Four Corners too, just based on all that. So there were a lot of question marks here. I mean, I applaud the theoretical boldness of it, but the actual execution isn't there yet. These technologies don't exist to meet these demands. It may be there, like with Kennedy. All those rockets were blown up in 1960, as you remember, the Redstone rockets, but ultimately you crafted the Saturn V and we did get to the moon.
Good point there. Mary, interesting when you think about this, Jeffrey sort of danced around this a little bit. San Juan Generating Station, Nabo Generating Station, and then Four Corners. These closures will hit tribes especially hard. And that was a point of discussion during this. It was not as if everyone woke up and went, oh, we didn't think about that. That has been thought about. But is this, it's aggressive. We have to admit here, it's aggressive, these timetables. Is it doable to actually have these folks all taken care of with these closures like this?
Well, I think that's where we start to see a little bit of like the divide with maybe some of, let's say, coal miners or employees who are working at the plants.
Sure.
She was fortunate, Michelle Lujan Grisham was, in that just in a lot of ways in this session and then in seizing the moment. She was fortunate in that the leader of the Navajo Nation, who was also just elected, is now promoting renewable energy. That's a big deal for Navajo because coal has been such a big part of their operation budget and their economic equation for a long time. So I think a lot of how she'll be measured on this later, especially up maybe in that area, is how effective the transition efforts are for those workers individually.
I think Jeff's point about the accountability, that's the tricky one for me, because all these folks who voted for it, right? Most of them will be gone.
That's right.
So, and I think what PNM's been good at, when we were doing the 20% RPS back when I was up there, There was no there was no accountability. Like, what happens if we do clawbacks when we do incentives? Like, there is no
Right.
real hammer for them to hold them to this agreement. We're all hoping they do the right
Sure,
thing.
sure.
And just on the PRC end run thing, like one of the other things that's in the bill, in that 85-page bill, is really, in my view and a lot of folks' view, is an end run around the PRC. Your question was, why didn't they go to the PRC? And the PRC had already said, like, we're going to make you split the costs of just decommissioning San Juan with shareholders and ratepayers. By going outside of that process, they don't have to split the cost. They actually, and Laura's right that maybe they're not entirely held harmless. So I will be gladly corrected. But if you believe some of the estimates, it's north of $1 billion between these great transition programs for the folks who will be most affected, between cleanup and between actually paying to sort of decommission these plants. Some people say it could be as high as $2 billion.
Wow.
That's mostly 90% will be on the ratepayers. And the last thing is, like, just to Jeffrey's point, like, there's pretty good evidence that we're not going to get to purely solar and wind by these dates. That nuclear is going to be part of it, and gas is going to be part of it. So in the end, if you're PNM, God bless you. You're in great shape. So.
Right.
So
Pick up on that. And I'm interested in your point that your side of the deal that Jeffrey mentioned, of course, he wouldn't be alone, that the technology's not quite there yet.
Yeah.
We have some aggressive dates. Would you?
I disagree with
Okay.
that. I mean, I think the technology, and again, keep in mind that there was a broad coalition of people involved in this, a lot of groups that are not ordinarily on the same side as PNM on
pretty
anything or any other
extraordinary,
utility.
actually. Yeah.
Some pretty very top-notch nonprofit organizations that do hardcore environmental analysis on this stuff, do PRC work, and understand the energy sector, and who also weighed in on this. And there was a compromise on a lot of levels, but the technology is there. What is also quickly developing is energy storage, and that's an aspect that's also in this bill. That's something that is quickly coming to market at a large commercial scale, and that's something that hopefully will also be included. But one thing I wanted to correct in your
Please.
lead up to
Yep.
your Jeffrey was that you said, should the state be doing this? The state actually isn't bailing anybody out. This isn't taxpayer money.
Okay.
This is ratepayers. So to what Eric said, ratepayers will be the ones who will be paying a flat charge to deal with this transition. But the alternative would have been to go through what we've called the traditional rate. So this isn't, I know that Eric said an end run around the PRC. There's still going to have to be a PRC process with a hearing.
Okay.
The PRC still has the ability to approve or disapprove this financing order, which
they
is
do?
the actual
Oh, interesting.
application. Yes.
Okay.
PNM still has to apply. Now keep in mind, PNM is a regulated monopoly.
Right.
So they have a service area, and in exchange for having a monopoly in that service area, they have to get everything approved by the PRC. They are not a normal business where they can just make a business decision. Everything has to be approved by the PRC. So they still have to get approval for this. The difference is that in this case, they're going to get their stranded costs versus going the traditional route and not necessarily getting the full stranded costs. The problem is that one of the talking points of the opponents to this bill, they said, well, otherwise it should have been 50-50. That 50-50 idea came from a settlement agreement with regard to the San Juan Generating Station previously, and settlement agreements are not precedent.
Gotcha.
So the PRC couldn't say, oh, because this was done previously, this is what we're going to do now. They would have to take everything that went into a rate case, which is very expensive,
Right.
a lot of attorneys,
right.
a lot of experts involved,
Yep.
and a long process in order to determine what's actually fair in a rate case.
I appreciate you parsing this out. It's complicated.
very
If
complicated.
someone's brand new to this, it's difficult.
It
We
is.
apologize, but I appreciate your expertise on this,
Thank
and
you.
Eric, your thoughts too, and everybody else. Now, out of time on the ETA, but this group will be back, and up next, is a mobile voting booth part of the future for New Mexico? We'll explain.